Hello everybody and welcome to a special edition of the Charlie Curvada Show. We are bringing you something for the foodie in all of us. Recently there's been some stuff that's come up about my transition from being fat and proud into being fat, fit, and fabulous, and I'm bringing it to you. So what I've decided to do is, because I'm getting a lot of emails about this and a lot of people asking, I'm bringing you some of my favorite recipes that are healthy, that promote good carbs, lean proteins, all that fun stuff. And today we're going to be doing an all-natural baked oatmeal bar with fruit and nuts. So it's a relatively easy recipe that I found on allrecipes.com, so we're going to go ahead and try it out. I've got everything already prepped and ready to go. And before we get started, here's your recipe. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start off, and I've done a slight variation on the original recipe, and we're doing this to kind of increase the or lower the caloric intake and lower the cholesterol levels, and putting the Charlie Curvada spin on it. So instead of doing 4 whole eggs, what I have here is I have 4 egg whites. I know a lot of people, when you see egg whites, what's the purpose of beating it? It's the same thing as when you make meringue. It just puts air into the egg and it gives it a fluffy consistency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly beat the eggs. And I don't want them to bubble and I don't want them to fluff, but what I do want them to do is blend. So we're just going to lightly beat them, and then I'm going to throw them into my bowl here. And this is just the egg whites. If you have an egg separator, you can do this, or you can just do it putting the egg from one shell into the other after you've cracked it open and sort it out that way. Then we have 6 cups of cooking oats. And this is just regular old Quaker oats, 6 cups. The original recipe calls for a lot less, but we're making more than 4 servings. So we're going to do 6 cups of oats. Just dump all of that in there. Alright, and then we have 2 cups of sugar. The recipe calls for regular sugar. I'm going to use brown sugar. Brown sugar is a lot easier for the body to digest and break down. I think it gives a better flavor when you use it with oatmeal. So we're going to take 2 cups of brown sugar. It doesn't have to be packed. So we're just going to start smelling like oatmeal cookies in here in a minute. And now we've got 2 cups of milk. I use low-fat milk. You can use whatever you want. Of course, the lower the fat percentage of the milk, the lower the fat percentage and the caloric intake you're going to get in your milk. If you're lactose intolerant, you can substitute water. Milk. And the recipe calls for 1 cup of vegetable oil, but because we're trying to keep the calorie and the cholesterol down, I'm going to substitute with applesauce. So what I have here is just your regular one-in-the-mill applesauce from the grocery store. You can use Mott's, you can use generic brand, but we've substituted the exact amount of vegetable oil for the applesauce. So this is going to be 1 full cup of applesauce that we're going to put in there. And it also increases the moisture level in whatever it is that you're baking too. So when you use applesauce in cookies or in cakes instead of oil, it tends to be fluffier and stay moister. Spell check. Okay, 1 cup of chopped nuts. Now what I've done here for variation is I've got a 1/2 cup of chopped pecans and a 1/2 cup of chopped almonds. So we've got them nice and chunky in there, extra added flavor, extra texture to go in along with the oatmeal and the applesauce. So we're just going to do a 1/2 cup of each. Put those in there. So that's coming together quite nicely. And then the recipe calls for a cup of raisins. I don't know about you, but I like a little spice in my life, so I'm using craisins. These are dried cranberries that have the texture and the consistency of raisins, but they pack a little more punch where the flavor is concerned. And I don't know if you've ever had them in your oatmeal. Delish. And the nutritional benefits of cranberries compared to raisins speak for themselves. So there we've got 1 cup of craisins, and for this level of the recipe we're using 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So I've got that all measured out, and we're just dumping everything in here because that's what the recipe says to do. It also calls for 2 tablespoons of salt or 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm not really big on salt. I like to try and keep the sodium down. I'm usually the kind of person that cooks by sight, so I'm just going to throw a little bit in there And that's about it. Salt is usually optional when you bake. You'll learn that. And then we've got 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. So we're just going to throw that in there. And check out my pretty little mess. Isn't that beautiful? So that's what it looks like going in. Now we're just going to combine everything. So I'm going to take a wooden spoon and I'm just going to start gently mixing everything because I have a lot of dry ingredients in here. I don't need them to go flying all over the place since I am apparently super clumsy today. So we're just gonna, what I'm doing is I'm getting under and I'm bringing it up. So I'm folding everything in so that everything gets mixed because it's kind of a deep bowl. And this is gonna come together really nicely, kind of like, almost like an oatmeal cookie dough, but it might be a little more wet. So I'm just gonna scrape my oatmeal off the sides there and make sure I get everything in. Now I know a lot of you are sitting here going, well, where's the flour? This recipe does not call for flour. If you make it and you decide it's a little too moist or a little too crumbly for your liking, I highly suggest making your own oat flour. You just basically throw regular oats into a food processor and just pulverize them until they turn into a flour consistency. I never ever use enriched flour, ever. Your body will not process it, will not break it down. It's unnecessary starches. I don't bake with it. I don't like baking with it. Wheat flour if possible. Make sure it is not enriched wheat flour. All right, so get down into the bottom there. We're all nice and mixed up, ready to go. See, now it looks like a bowl of oatmeal. So now what I'm gonna do, I've got my oven already preheated to 350 degrees. I've got a nice big 10 by 14 baking dish here. A lot of people use grease, some people use Crisco, some people use butter. I use Pam for just about everything, and that includes my baking. So I'm just gonna lightly coat. I don't want any runoff, but I also don't want the edges to stick when we go to take this out. So I've got my greased, no place to put that, my greased pan. I'm going to take my spatula and just dump everything right in there. No oat left behind. So I've got my mix in there. And now what I'm going to try and do is spread this out so that I'm not taking the grease off the sides of the dish here. Where's my son? So I'm just going to kind of push it out to the edges, and then I'm going to flatten it so that it's all nice and even. Okay, so that's your finished product there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the oven at 350 for about 25 to 30 minutes, and we'll check on it when it's done. You want to have a piece of cookies? No? Okay, so our oatmeal bars are done. They were in the oven for, I think, 25 minutes, and we pulled them out. We let them cool. So the pan is actually cool to the touch. This is my son. Say hi. He just woke up from his nap, so he's a little shy, but he was all about coming out and helping us with these bars. So I'm just gonna go ahead, we're gonna dig into these bad boys and check them out.
How do I cook it?
It's already cooked.
I'll cook this?
Now the consistency, because it's a little moist, it's a little bit crumbly, so it's not gonna come out in a perfect form. but I would assume after some refrigeration, it'd stick together quite nicely. You want to try that?
I need spoons.
You need a spoon?
Yeah.
It's a cookie.
I need spoons.
You want a spoon?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll give this one to Catherine over there. How's that?
I want another one.
You want another one?
Yeah. I want a fork.
You want a fork or you want a spoon?
I want a spoon.
Welcome to the secret life of Charlie Curvada, folks.
What's
It's not all
this from?
glamour and photographs.
What's this from?
All right, you want this one?
Is it for Daddy?
That's for Daddy. You want this one? You want a fork?
Yeah. No, I need spoon.
You need a spoon?
Yeah. No,
My
I
son's
need-
gonna eat his oatmeal bars with a spoon.
No, I need fork.
Oh, you want a fork?
Yeah.
We're trying to prove a point that these are kid friendly. Try that, bud.
Oh.
Mine's gonna fall apart right here in the middle. So again, like I was saying, probably
Well,
after some
that's yours?
refrigeration. Yes, buddy, it's mine. After some refrigeration, I'd assume that the ingredients would kind of congeal a little bit better, but nonetheless, my food's going down one way and coming out the same. So, you wanna try it?
Hey, who's that from? Who's this from? Who's this from? Who's this from?
Those are mine.
Oh.
It's like an oatmeal cookie and a coffee cake had a baby. If you try something different with the recipe and you like it better, send me your email. We'll probably put this up on the website at charliecurvada.com. The next recipe we're going to be doing is my absolute favorite. It's my quinoa scramble. So happy baking.